Yo, 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 everybody. What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the What Now podcast. We got Spencer and Zach back on the Dolo cast. Next week, we have a really cool guest coming in for you guys. We got Dr. Colton Wood. We're super stoked to have him on, one of our homies that we've been hanging out with recently. But this week, you got us again. So what's up, guys? What's up, Zach? How are you, bro?
What's up? Great to be here as always without the vacuum.
Oh, dude, for those of you guys who don't know, Zach was just his forehead on the camera, and we've been trying to get the video uploaded more, so we're working on that. And so Zach moved his camera, and then he had this Jarvis from Iron Man sounding vacuum.
Very fancy vacuum that talks.
So
Tells you
talking
when
back
to clean
him.
it. So we had to move that.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Not gonna lie. One of my patients teaches a hybrid high rocks class at Lifetime Tuesday mornings. She's like, "You should really come." And I was like, "All right, what time is it?" She said 5:30. I was like, "Okay."
Jeez.
So we got destroyed for an hour, super early, but we're cruising, man. It's been a good one day of the week. What about you?
That's good, dude. I mean, solid. Yeah, February is great. For those of you guys who don't know, we just signed on our new office space. So we're moving from our little 700 square foot office space to 2,000 square feet that we'll be operating. And then we have another, I think it's 1,200 square feet that we're leasing out to functional medicine and PT. So that's been pretty sweet. We're excited about that, and we're ready for the opportunity. That being said, now that we have a bigger office, well, before, I really couldn't accept students to come and shadow at the office, because it's we would be rubbing butts the whole time because the office is so small. And so, yeah, we should have some more opportunities for people to come and hang out with us and visit. And then with that, we'll be looking to bring on an associate and grow our team in that way. We're hiring for some more CAs right now. So, yeah, I think that's kind of what we're going to get into today, is just kind of both how we both knew that we were going to be opening our own practices versus getting an associateship, and then kind of what we're looking for in our ideal associates. So Zach, what are your thoughts on that? What are some measurements, or how do you kind of get a feel for should I be a associate, or should I open my own practice? Should I associate first and then open my own practice? Should I get right out of the gates? How is that going for you?
I think it's a very personalized question, and so I don't want this to come off as advice for anyone, because I think there's too many people in the chiropractic space, if we're being totally honest, that tell you have to go open your own business. If you don't open your own business right out of school, you're a failure, which is just the more I've been in business, the crazier I've begun to realize that sort of stigma around chiropractic and what that does for really our profession as a whole. And we can get into that in a second. But really, for me personally, I knew going into chiropractic school I was going to open on my own. That was something I was pretty set on. I've never been a great employee. And what I mean by that is whether there was a way to kind of go up in leadership, if there was, I typically found myself to the top quite quickly because I have natural leading abilities. But I also don't follow direction very well. It's one thing that I just don't do a good job of. If you tell me to do something, I typically will not do it. Morgan, my wife, has learned how to tell me to do things without telling me to do them. So it's an art, but I really don't follow direction well. I think if my way can do it better, I'm just going to do it that way. And that typically doesn't do well if you are an associate and your doc wants you to do their systems, which is totally fair. You're probably going into a successful practice that those systems work. But yeah, I just don't follow direction well. I like to do my own thing. I mean, even our practice model, if you will, not that it's recreating the wheel, but we use insight scans, but we also use posture analysis. We don't use all three scans. So I really wanted to create something from the ground up. So that's a big reason I opted in to go on my own. And I also knew that I would have some form of startup capital going into it as well. So I think I've shared that, how I was able to gain that startup capital, but I knew that I would be able to build out what I think is a pretty decent office right from the jump. So those were really the two big things. I wasn't a good follower, wasn't a good employee. I showed up to work and everything, but and then really having that startup capital to go forth and do it. What about you?
Yeah. Do you think it's the label is doesn't follow directions, or just doesn't play well with others?
No, I think I played really well with others. I don't know. Maybe not. I
It's a
don't
hard
know.
question.
Yeah.
That's more of a deeper thought question. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I actually am the opposite. Whenever I was going all through school, I mean, we had even talked about me working for you at one point,
It's crazy.
which is crazy. And I was cool with that. My biggest thing is my biggest thing is I always thought that I was going to get an associateship, and every time that I tried to get one, it just never worked out. I didn't have any startup capital, and so I worked at the J, which most people know about. Which, dude, it was a good experience for me. So I guess I technically was an associate, even though I was like the only one in the clinic that I worked with at.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, the biggest thing is I wasn't the primary business owner, right? I wasn't responsible for the business. I was just working in the business, not necessarily on the business. So, dude, I think for me, the biggest thing was that I had a vision for what I wanted, not even necessarily like for my own life, but I had a vision to create a place where that empowered people, both our patients and our team. And I felt like it was either one or the other. Like, I felt like in a lot of practices that I saw, it was the business owner directed all of the priority toward the patients, or the business owner directed all of the priority toward their team and themselves. And it sacrificed the experience of the patient. And I really wanted to do both. And I was really excited to provide a place that could help people achieve their hopes, their dreams, their goals. And I was looking to be a part of something like that, but I didn't really have one that resonated a ton with me and my personal story and my message and in the location where I wanted to live. So like the biggest thing for me is I wanted to have someone who and be a part of something that first like was heavily involved in the community, was more than just a place where people can come in and get their back cracked and leave, where people go in and they're known by everyone, like where you're not just a number, and like you're not just someone who works behind the desk, but you're a person who
Mhm.
contributes to the culture and contributes to the business, or where you're not just someone who goes in and just gets adjusted, but you're someone who is a part of the culture and a part of the community there. So that's really what I was looking for, and I just didn't find anything that really fit the bill for me. And so I just said, I guess I got to do it myself. So that's kind of what led me down the path, I guess, to building the business and saying, like, I guess I'm going to open up my own. Like, so I think it's interesting. Yeah, I guess I never really thought about that. But when I think about my time at school, like, I really actually never thought that I would open up my own practice.
Mhm.
I actually tried really hard to not open up my own practice because I think I was very risk adverse. And it was safer to kind of play with other people's money than it was on my own.
Yeah.
And, that's just kind of my own ego, like a lot of self worth stuff. I didn't feel like I was worthy to be leader. And I guess that's the farthest thing from the truth. So I guess we get kind of like pushed into the direction in which we need to be challenged the most. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it led for me. So you got any other thoughts on that?
No, I think it's interesting too. I think one thing that we had in common is creating something that we didn't see in the profession. And I think in hindsight, we probably could have found that. But I also think the profession as a whole, there's not a great like branding, if you will, other than from like an aesthetic standpoint. So it's hard to know the culture because there's so many mom and pop shops. And if that offends you, I mean, that's what most of us are, is like smaller practices, it's just like a mom and pop 2, 3, 4 person team. But it's hard to understand that culture, right? It's not like, hey, I want to get into supplements. There's First Form, there's BPN, there's Ascent, there's Momentous, like, and you kind of can tell through their branding and their culture and the content that they're putting out, like which is the right one for you. And that's something that I think very little chiropractic offices or franchises or whatever it might be that do a great job of. And so I think it is difficult to find that, which is why I think it's so easy to just go and open on your own. Um, and I think the easiest part is opening. And then once you're open, things get quite difficult. But
Yeah, I mean, I think that it kind of falls back into, I think it's kind of like both. Like, I think that, yes, I was talking to Jeremy about this a couple days ago, but like chiropractors, and really just like healthcare service providers in general need to do a better job at telling our brand story. What you're describing with like First Form and BPN and all those other companies is like they have a brand story that they tell, and you utilize their products in their story. Whereas in healthcare service providers, we are like really focused on I am the hero, we are the solution to your X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
Where it needs to be more of a story of, I know, like, we know that you're struggling with this. We understand that this is like the way that things are going, and these are the stories that we can buy into for you, and you can be a part of the story that's going on here if you would like. And
Hmm.
so I think that's kind of, as we're designing our new office, as we're moving in, like that's one of the big things, is like trying to say, how do we fit into the story of our ideal client and what they're going for, and how do we tailor our experience to enhance their story, and how do we enroll people in the story of what goes behind in our practice, versus just being like, you have back pain, you come and see me. You
Hmm.
have this and you see that. So where I think that other brands really do a good job of enrolling you in that, like especially the ones that are like really gravitating, and the ones that like you really build like a cult following around. I think that's a big thing. And then it's the entrepreneurial myth. So I think that it's hard
Yeah.
for people who want to associate to buy into the brand story of working at certain places, because we do a poor job telling it, yes. But then I also think that the e-myth, I mean, it's the thing. That's why there's the whole book around it. But the e-myth is that like, I'm good at adjusting, I should open up my own business. I'm good at baking pies, like that's the story of the e-myth. And like, so I should open up my own bakery, right? But you
Hmm.
don't, but like we're so far removed and negligent of, leading a team, managing finances, building systems and operations, all that kind of stuff. And then that makes you actually like less of like just adjusting. I think one of the big things that like is the best pulse check, and like I'm gonna kind of like throw this out there, but I think that the best pulse check for you is that if you're more interested, if you love adjusting more than you love leading, then you're probably a better associate than
Hmm.
you are a business owner. And like that doesn't mean that you can't be a good business owner, or that you'll be a bad associate, like vice versa. Like, oh, I love leadership, because you can totally be a leader as an associate, because like that's something that we're looking for, is someone who wants to be a leader, like
Hmm.
be a leader in the office. So like we as the business owners can remove ourselves a little bit. But I think if you're like, yeah, I'm going to open up my practice so I can adjust more than I would as an associate, I think that's like a big disconnect right there.
Right. Right. And I think too, I think we've talked about it maybe earlier on, but I think that's one of the bigger slaps in the face. If you feel like, oh, I'm a great adjuster. Now, some people can tell the difference if they've been to multiple chiropractors, but more often than not, you're either someone's first chiropractor, second chiropractor. They don't know, they didn't get adjusted 5 times a day in chiropractic school, right? They don't know the difference between a good adjustment and a not so good adjustment. So I think putting your sign up on outside your office and saying like, "Well, I'm the best adjuster in town." I don't think that's like a great reason to open your practice.
Yeah.
So I think you're spot on there.
Yeah, and I think like if you're shingle, like if your tag for yourself is really like, I'm the best adjuster in town, like tell everyone that, but don't tell like patients that, tell all the doctors that, because like, dude, like every doctor that's hiring wants someone who's a really good adjuster. That's like, dude, I'm a really good adjuster. I want to adjust a lot of people, and like that like really sets you apart. That's like a really good selling point. Like, dude, if you really are a fire adjuster and you're like, this is what I want to do, I just want to light people up, like, well,
I love
one,
that.
give me a call. So like, and
Yeah.
if you want to see kids and you're a good adjuster, like give me a call, because we want you on our team. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think if like I think if you're really focused on like, hey, I want to really deliver an experience. Hey, I really want to like nurture people. Hey, I really want to create this environment for people. I think that's like a really good hint that you are going to enjoy your time as a business owner more, because it's more of like crafting this experience than it is just delivering adjustments. I mean, like, I mean, I think the first week that I was in practice, I think I did like 10 adjustments or something like that. And so like, if you are like, oh dude, I can't wait to get out of school and like just throw hands like on people and like light people up, like I think, and you're going to open your own practice, you have a lot of work to do before you can get that. Yes, you'll get there and build a lot of volume, but it takes a lot of time to do that. So if you're really itching like to get your hands on people, like an associateship is like really like a great place to start.
Hmm. And I think too is just better. Like another thing is not being in a rush. I think a lot of us are in a rush to open the business, and it's something I wish someone had told me, because I probably would have viewed it differently. Was, hey, if you're not comfortable like not being open for the first 6 months because of permits or things going wrong with your build out or finding the right space, like it's not always like, okay, I'm going to move back to my hometown. I've been looking at this one space. I'm going to lease it out. It's not really like apartment shopping. Like you don't just go in, pick your spot, and then move in the next day. It takes in some aspects, depending on the space you're looking at. But there's plenty of stories of people like it took them 6, 7, 8 months to get the X-ray cleared by their city permitting. And if you're fresh out of school, you may not have that ability to kind of sit around and wait. And you're going to feel that rush and you're going to feel that anticipation build. So if you're comfortable there and you have the ability to sit and wait, then no problem. But just factor in some of the things that I don't want to say can go wrong, but that can just slow you down from opening as well.
Yeah, I think if you're like a person who likes to win and wants to win now, I think that like that's a big thing. Like that's a big muscle you have to flex. That delayed gratification muscle
Mm-hmm.
is definitely one that you have to build as a business owner. Yeah, I mean, dude, I think like really like people who are like great associates are people who are like one like self-motivated, willing to learn and leaders, but also are people who are like good team players. Like I think that's like a big thing. Like I think that if you are looking to offload a lot of initial responsibility, but still want leadership, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's like great quality in a really high level associate. That's like really good characteristics that you're looking for. Saying like, dude, I want to be a part of something. I want to be super successful and I'm willing to work for it, but I don't know if I necessarily want to carry the yoke or like be the lead horse on something because I don't know if I necessarily like want to run point on this project. You know, I think like for all the sports analogies or all the other things that you get, like because I mean I think the biggest thing, dude, is like there's a lot of over glorification of owning your own business, and I think there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the same amount of downplaying about being an associate. You know, I think that's like a big misconception. Like everyone thinks that they're like, oh, like all I see the associate do is like working and stuff, but nobody sees the vacations that you take. Like how Matt Delgado do, like he does a really good job of taking care of his associates. Like Brooks is like very well taken care of, both financially and with her time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's a lot of like Denisa at SLC, like she took great care of Kate whenever Kate was working
Mm-hmm.
at SLC, like fire associateship. Like we never thought that Kate was going to leave that associateship because it was such a good position where Kate had like a lot of responsibility. We just live really far. Like she was driving an hour and, you know,
One way. Yeah.
yeah. And then in the same, like, so nobody sees the $2,500 bonus after a record
Mm-hmm.
month that the associates get. Nobody sees the week long PTO or the, hey, my mom is sick and so I need to go and visit her. Like, I'm going to let you off type of deal. But also, like on the associateship side. And then nobody also sees the, hey, I'm moving office spaces. Like last year when I moved office spaces, I was at the office 72 days consecutively in a row. Like, I was in that office every single day for 72 days. Like, nobody saw that. Nobody saw the time whenever my utilities never got switched over because the city didn't sign the paperwork. So I have 50 people on the schedule, but then my power gets cut off to the practice, like, and I have to get that up and running because I have patients like that are coming in. Like nobody sees those kind of things, you
Mm-hmm.
know, on the business owner side.
Right. Right. And I think too, like one thing that at least being a solo doc, and I'm totally fine with it right now. I think it's something I'm craving and something I look forward to having an associate in the practice here soon. But if you're someone that really enjoys not just like being a team player, but collaboration, like if you're in student clinic and you're like, man, it's really cool to go to my clinic doc or to my peers and bounce this case or that case off one another. If that's something you really appreciate, you might say with your friends, hey, I know we're going to all open together and we'll send each other this case or that case. But once you become a business owner, it quickly, you're like, I don't really have time to like bounce this off one another because you have to get the utilities fixed or you have to, the Wi-Fi, all of a sudden you walk in and your Wi-Fi is not working or your phone line is down. So you're like, well, I'm not going to send this case or that case. So I think that's another really big aspect that in most professions, especially from the health side, it is funny that we constantly compare ourselves to MDs from whatever a smartness standpoint, but with MDs, they don't go and start their own clinics more often than not. Same with
They really
lawyers.
don't. Like if you think about it, like most
Yeah.
doctors are with a hospital group or yeah.
And the hospital group does all the marketing for them. I mean, it was interesting. One of our friends' husbands graduated from law school around the same time that we graduated from chiropractic school, and he made a very interesting comment of like, in law school, if you go open up on your own, you're kind of like looked down upon. He's like, it's the complete opposite, and so it's really really interesting from that aspect because you got to learn. You're fresh, like you don't know what you don't know. You don't even know what you don't know. You just don't know what you don't know. And so you got to be able to think on your feet and be reactive more often than preventative when it comes to being a business owner when you haven't, been seeing 100 patients a week, 150, 200, 300 patients a week. And so I think that's another big thing to consider if you really love collaboration and you don't want to be in a reactive state very often. I think an associateship is really great. And we mentioned Brooks. I think it's something that also goes unmentioned is if you feel like you're only able to find, like, for lack of better words, a shitty associateship, or you're only looking at the joint because you get Fridays off or whatever it might be.
You don't.
There might be things, yeah, there might be things that you have to give up. Whether you're in school as a student right now, attending more seminars, shadowing more offices, whatever it might be, or things that you have to give up to really gain that really great associateship, right? Like Brooks, although she makes it look easy with social media, like that's effort that she's been
Bro, she
putting in since
grinds, dude.
school.
She grinds.
It looks really nice and like aesthetic and everything, but that's effort. And so she was able to obtain a great associateship because of the work she was putting in. And same for quite a few of our friends that were able to land great. Like Kate. Kate put in work throughout school and was able to get that SLC associateship. So if you feel like you should just be handed a great associateship because you made it all the way through and got those DCs behind your name, I think that's a fallacy.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is like because you graduate doesn't mean that you like deserve like dude, like you're just starting, right? Like you're just starting. Like you're out in the world now, like and now you just now have an opportunity to start working. And so like that I think that's a big misconception too, is that like being quote like underpaid as an associate. Like I think the biggest thing is like dude, you're learning so much in the first year. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times, if you have an associateship, your doctor is going to be the one teaching you that. I think like, yeah, I think I was looking back at our 2024 P&L and I think I spent like I think it's like close to 120 grand on continuing education this last year. Like, I think I actually spent close to six figures in continuing education, like in terms of, and like, that's because like, not just the courses, but like the travel and all the stuff that comes with continuing education. Because I think to do it at a high level, you have to be highly invested and like to get like really the best like quality courses, they're not cheap. And because like in school you get the student pricing, and like so the student price, like for those of you guys who don't know, because I was a student pricing guy, like the student pricing for a lot of seminars is like 350. I think for like a high quality seminar, that same seminar you're looking at like $700. And then like now we have like it's me and Kate, and so like we're paying for both of us to go to that. So like my $300 course is turning into $1,400, like that, just because now I open up my own business. Where
Mm-hmm.
as in like now then for me though, like we go and we take that course and then we come back and we're literally teaching whoever's going to be in there with us like all for free. So like the like if you really want to be poured into and you're like really looking for someone to like mentor you and do those kind of things, like that's sweet because like you're going to learn like through osmosis like in those offices. But that value is being translated in what you're learning. Like it might not show up on your W2 at the end of the year, but it's going to be something that you're going to gain, which is then going to make you more valuable. And then down the road you're going to recoup that because you're going to be paid for the value that you provide.
And
Go
and one
ahead.
thing I've heard too, like on top of that being poured into, one thing I've heard from like older docs that have had associates, they're like, I just wish they would ask to get lunch or ask to get coffee.
Mm-hmm.
But again, and this is again on leadership and not probably setting clear expectations or really like what the schedule looks like. But there's probably a misconception that when you are associating, the doc is crazy busy. So you don't want to bother them. Like the lead doc, the owner is super busy. So you don't want to ask them like, hey, can I pick your brain for 45 minutes over coffee, whatever it might be. But I think if you are an associateship listening, I would have a hard time believing that if you went to the clinic owner or whoever it might be and say, hey, can we get coffee next Friday? I know we're closed that day, or we have a 3 hour lunch break. Like, can we grab a coffee and just pick your brain? I bet you they would be thrilled to do that with you and get to know you more and help you out. Because I think in some aspects, maybe people are hiring associates for the wrong reasons, but more often than not, they're also looking to pour back in because they do have a lot of knowledge to teach you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like if you really love learning from other people, like if you are going to these seminars and let's say you go to John Martinez or you go to TRT or something like that, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I love this stuff that they're teaching. This is so cool. I'm going to use this. What I found myself like when I was going to other seminars, I would be like, that's a really cool idea. I really want to go and study that and try to figure out how did they come to that conclusion. Right. And so I was always like, like that like points me in a really good direction. And let me go and figure out how I can make that apply for me. But it's like, I really like to like dissect and break those things down. And I think like a good pulse check too, like if you listen to our stuff and you're like, listen to us talk about business and marketing and flywheel and all that kind of stuff. And like in the back of your mind, you're like, man, I really just wish that they would like talk more about like patient cases, or like, I really just wish that they would bring up more philosophy, or I really just wish that they talked about innate more, or like those kind of things, then like that's a really good sign that like you would love to be poured into by like a doctor who has more experience than you. Because all the stuff that we talk about and like studying marketing and flywheel and all that kind of stuff, like that's stuff that we do to like work on the business. Like, because business is the same, like regardless if you are facilitating the innate healing potential in the body, or if you're selling lemonade on the side of the stand, like business is the same, and it has to be something that you can study. So I think that's just like another really good thing of like, I'm really interested in that. And it's like, I think another thing too is like, if you're really interested in all of those business concepts, but you also have someone that you're like, that's the mission that I'm on, like they are saying the same thing and I want to do
Mm-hmm.
that, like why not join them? Because like if you want to go far, go together. That's the biggest thing, is like people like me, like dude, like I feel like people like us, like we have really big visions, big dreams, big missions. And so to have someone who like really likes what we do and says, I'm willing to like to join arms with you, like the first person who says that they're willing to do that, like we will be so ecstatic to bring you on and like pour into you so much, because like we're really looking for someone to be on mission like that. It's so hard to find somebody who's really bought into the same ideas that we're at. So that's another great way too, is like, dude, it's an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to invest. Like if we've already figured out like the hard part about what you want to do, like why not just join us? Because the hard part for us is getting people on our mission, and the hard part for you is getting started. And so like that's a win-win for both people.
And I think too, it's interesting. I don't know when this started. I can't like pinpoint it back to when. But it's also interesting too how the associateship contract, it's always 2 years, right? You're always just there for 2 years, and then you're on your own, right? It's like, so I'm going to go work there for 2 years. At least that's something I hear all the time, is like, I want to be in the spot for 2 years, and then once I have it figured out, I'll go on my own. Um, which is crazy to think, having been in business now for 2 years,
I feel
right?
like I know so much and so little at the same
Yeah,
time.
it's crazy. So I think it's interesting too, just from that aspect of like, oh, I think I got it figured out in 2 years, um, of just adjusting that. Now I'm good to go, especially if you're in the right spot and you're learning so much. Like, but I think one point I did want to make, just from like a, I don't know, more of a fun aspect. Something I posed a question to our group chat, or our MEO alumni chat, a few months ago. And I'm curious your thoughts. Do you, because something I realized, something I think that hurts the profession, is how many of us have gone on our own to open up our own practice, because people only are going to try a product once or twice before they're like, yeah, not for me. And that's not to say that, I mean, I wish I could say every chiropractic office is perfect and great. And that's just not the case. It's not the case in any business, but there are so many chiropractic offices. So I'm curious if you think like, if that has any validity, or if I'm just overthinking it.
Oh, dude, I mean, that's like I think it's like a multi-layered question. I think there's a
Right.
lot that goes into it, because I think that like if you look at it from the outside in, and you like all right, so in other industries, any business that's really like under 5 years old is considered a startup.
Mm-hmm. I
Really, any business that's like doing under like, dude, I would even say
think
like
it's like
$3
25
million.
million.
Yeah, like anything under like $3 million, you're still considered like mom and pop shop,
Mm-hmm.
like a small business. Like, I mean, really, you're a small business until you have multiple investors and stuff, like, or you don't even have to be that, because there's a lot of big businesses that are also privately owned. So you don't have to, I take that back. But I mean, like, I think this is the thing. I think as a profession, we do a poor job of leading the people that are coming next. Like, we could definitely be
Mm-hmm.
pouring into our profession more. I mean, in medical school, you have to do a fellowship. Like, so you graduate from school, you are a licensed doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and then, or like a residency, and then you do a residency. Like, so you are a licensed medical doctor, but then you have to do at least a couple years of learning from someone else. And then you go out and do that. Right.
But
And
still under a hospital. It's not like you like do your fellowship for or
yeah,
your whatever it's called for 3 or 4 years and
I
then
think fellowship is like internship in chiropractic, and then
yeah,
residency is like your
I think
first
you're right.
associateship after. I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
But that's just from what I've watched in Grey's Anatomy. Um, I think that we could do a better job of getting mentorship, because really, like 1 year in the clinic, you're really like in student clinic for the first whatever it is, like three
Mhm.
quarters of your year, and then you do 3 months of like CBI, which is in the community. So you've really only seen 3 months of practice, where it's like, this is what real practice is like, and you're only there for 3 months, right? And then like sometimes, like as a CBI internship, you're literally just shooting x-rays and like filling out paperwork, which is like a big part of business. It's true. And so I think we could do a better job of nurturing our students as a profession for a longer period of time. That's a really hard thing to do, and like I'm not here to have that conversation how we fix that yet.
Right. Right.
But then I think that like we put a lot of pressure. I think in the seminars, we get a lot of seminars from people who still are not completely independent of their business, telling you that the only way to make money is through being your own business owner. And that, I don't believe that that's the case. I think that Tony does a really, really, really good job of getting his associates to be teachers in the profession. I think I think he's probably, out of everyone, doing the best job of getting his associates to take a leadership position in the profession. Like, so shout out Tony, you do a really good job of that.
Yeah.
So I think that the perception around like you're only successful if you open your own business is false, and or it's heavily misconstrued, and that if you're an associate, you're a failure. And
Yeah.
so I
And
think that
if you're an associate, you can't do a lot of like the entrepreneurial things that
that's, yeah, I
that a
mean,
business owner can
because
do.
most of your associate positions are going to be commission based anyway.
I think that's one of the better takeaways. Shout out Austin Cohen, but from his talk at Cairo WealthCon was there's no reason an associate can't go and buy a rental property
Yeah.
every 3 to 5 years, right? Like there's no reason that can't be done. You can't go, I mean, save up, put the deposit down on a $250,000, $300,000 house, rent it out. You don't have to be a business owner initially to do that, right?
I don't think that anyone in the world looks at the doctor who's working in the hospital and think he's lesser than the person that owns the hospital. Like, I don't think that's the case. Like in these pediatrician groups, or like these dentists, right? Like say you have multiple dentists working in the practice. I don't think that anybody's like, oh, I want to see this dentist because he's the owner. Like, I don't think that that's it, unless they have a business issue. I don't
Right.
think that in, dude, at the CrossFit gym, bro, like the coaches that are there, all the coaches are qualified. You don't look at the one that owns the gym as the best coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's just the one that pays the rent at the end of the day. But for some reason, in chiropractic, associate, you think like junior doctor, like intern, lesser than doctor. And I don't think that's the case, like at all,
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think that like we as a generation of chiropractors, like our generation, I think it's our responsibility to treat our associates very well, because those people are partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saying like, hey, dude, I'm willing to partner with you for you to help me support my life. And I think that's an honor rather than an obligation.
I think that's something that I don't know much about it, but like watching Suits and them like partnering in law firms, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't understand why that's not more of a concept in chiropractic.
Yeah. Nobody would be like, I don't want that lawyer because he's not the one that started the business. Like, you would say, I want to go to this law firm because they have the best lawyers. I want to
And
go.
maybe the only people that are saying that are the ones that have been going to that same lawyer for 20 years, right? So I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Same like a barbershop. Like there might be some people, myself included, I'm going to see my same person every time I go. But I know plenty of people, they just have no issue walking in, like, oh, that's the barber for the day. That's who's gonna cut my hair.
Dude, I
You
think
know?
that's huge, bro, because I was at the barbershop this weekend and I was getting my hair cut, and I was talking to my guy Cam about the barbershop. I was like, man, dude's popping in here, dude. Business is good. And he's like, yeah. He's like, we're all doing really well. Like, we're all doing
Mhm.
about 8 to 10 cuts a day. I'm like, man, dang, bro, like you're cutting hair for like 6, 7, 8 hours a day. He's like, yeah, dude, we're all doing good. And he's like, the guy, I forget what his name is, but I think his name's like Jay. He's like, yeah, dude, Jay like did a really good job setting us up. We're all eating here.
Mhm.
And I was like, which one is Jay?
Right.
And like that's the issue though, is like nobody knows who owns the shop because everyone is playing an equal part. And I think that's like the biggest thing. And so I think that our generation can do a better job of doing that and building our partners and our up in that, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's just like a weird topic, dude. I think that chiropractic like is weird. And maybe this is just like the generation that we're growing up into, like maybe that's just something that our experience in school. So if you
Mm-hmm.
guys have a different experience in that, let us know, because it'd be good to gain some perspective. But I think the whole chiropractors eat their young thing and the associateship sucks is because we as chiropractors open up our practices, overwork ourselves, and then we only hire associates. And I say we, like this is a blanket statement. So, and I know that a lot of people run really good businesses. And so
Mm-hmm.
I know that you're not doing this, but I think in the general humdrum aspect of the profession, I think that associates are hired too late and we're only getting people just to do work because we're so burnt out as the business owner that you're just like, we're not good at building systems, we're not good at nurturing people, our leadership is poor. And so then what we do is then like it's like, well, I got this associateship, I never see the practice owner anymore, I don't know what they're working on, they're not mentoring me, and I'm just here
Yeah.
like getting people like jumping on my table and I have no idea what to do. And so then it burns out that person. They said, well, if I'm doing this, I might as well be on my own. And
Yeah.
then the cycle continues to happen. So I think like, building team, talking together more, dropping our egos, I think that's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think like as the business owner, I'm going to pour more into you as the associate than I would even myself, because it's like, it's on me to go and teach you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't take that very lightly. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
do that with our staff too. It's like, dude, like, what can I do? How can I help you support
Mm-hmm.
you? Because you're saying like, hey, like, I trust you enough to give you this, I mean, my career.
100%. 100%. It's definitely
Cool.
a touchy subject, but I don't know. I'm curious to hear listeners' thoughts, like whether you're in school or freshly out. Um, it's always great to hear from you guys, like Taylor, who kind of sprung this conversation on, sliding our DMs and asking about, why associate, why open on your own, those sort of things. So we appreciate that feedback. Appreciate you all listening.
Yeah, send us a DM if you guys are business owners looking for associates. Let us know what you're looking for an associate. And if you are an associate, tell us what made you choose your associateship, because I think that's a big thing. Like if that's really where the key is if somebody is like, this is why I chose to work here. For the people who are owning businesses, that's huge,
Yeah.
because if you know that, then like you can get all the associates, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're on the fence, let us know why you're on the fence. Let us know why you are leaning one way or the other if you have any other questions. So I think these are good conversations for us to have.
100%.
And like every week, thanks so much for listening to the What Now podcast, guys. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
Peace.